Okay, I got a Craftsman 26-inch snowblower. Just finished, and it broke just at the end of taking care of this recent snowstorm that dumped 2 feet of snow on us. The front augers are loose. They're not spinning anymore. The back one in here rotates fine, but apparently there must be something wrong with the gearbox here. So whether you're replacing rotors or whatever, the augers or whatever, I figured I'd just throw this up on YouTube so you guys could see how to remove this auger assembly. I'm learning myself, so as we go you can see my mistakes or the way I do it right. I believe this is part number, it's a Craftsman auger, Craftsman snowblower 247.883/700. I'm assuming that they're all fairly similar as far as removing. First thing I did was I removed the 2 bolts on either side here. Second thing I did, which was probably a little bit early, was I removed the bolts from the gear housing here in the front. I'm assuming this is where my issue is. The back spins freely like it's supposed to when I engage it, and these just sit here and do nothing. So I need to remove this whole assembly out to get to the gearbox. And of course these side covers are welded in place, so there's nothing, this whole assembly needs to come up. There's nothing I can do as far as unwelding these things. You can see it's still covered in snow. It just finished. I will get back to you as soon as I've got to the next step. Next, I took off 2 bolts, one here and one here, so that I can remove this front belt cover. That comes right off. because I believe I need to disconnect the belts. Okay, next thing I did was remove these bolts, two on this side, two on the opposite side, and then you can see a mistake I made. This belt, I should have pulled it off to this side because now it's hanging up, so I need to do a little playing with that. The other thing I did was I took these two pieces, loosened it up, tilted the handle, and disconnected the wire that runs to the auger, just so I had some free room to separate the front and back halves of the unit. So as soon as I get that little thing fixed, I'll be back. Okay, the front and back half are disconnected. On this model here, there was also a bolt here that held the chute in place, and I removed that bolt too, because these are, of course, these are all wires that hold that to this back section. So got that apart. Belt is free, and I believe the next thing I need to do is remove this wheel. So I will unbolt them. Okay, the next thing I did was I stuck a breaker bar in here to sit against this rotating auger so that I could remove this bolt. And I've already loosened that bolt. Now hopefully I can just pry off this pulley and everything will come off. Okay, yeah, the pulley just popped off, and then also this piece which ties it in, it's keyed to the shaft, so got both of those components. Now it looks like there is one more step. I need to remove this back plate, so there are two bolts, and I'll be able to go through the holes in this back auger here. Once I remove this guy here. Okay, after removing that pulley and that other item, this whole assembly comes out. Now I can take this to the bench and start to take things apart. Okay, so what I've done now is took the shear pins out, pulled everything off in order from the outside pieces to each one of the four augers, to the spacers that go between them, to the spacer that goes in the middle. And what do I find? I find this gear is totally just eaten up, done, gone. Needs to be replaced. This gear here, I don't know if I'm going to replace them both at the same time. It might be worth it. A lot of work to take this thing apart. So I guess once I have the replacement gear, okay, I got things cleared up. Everything looks alright. This here, I would say, there's a little bit of brass transfer, but this is a steel gear. So that gear I don't need to replace, although there is some brass that has transferred over. I believe this whole shaft is one piece. This cannot be replaced by itself, as far as I can tell. I need to go back and look at the parts list, but you can see that the brass is transferred from the other gear. Now, the other gear, I've removed from the shaft all the augers and the transmission housing, and then just by tapping with a hammer I was able to get the gear was on a key, but you can see there are no teeth left in that gear. Well, there are some, but it doesn't matter. If you don't have all the teeth, you don't have any. So that gear there is made of brass or bronze, I'm not sure exactly which, but that is the gear that's supposed to wear out first, and it's just attached to the shaft. It's not pressed down like the other one. So let me